Hello.
Hello,
Hi. Uh,
I'm Maria.
I'm John, and this is episode, what, seven of six, seven, seven? It's been a while. Episode seven
It's
of
so
Just a Side
bad.
Quest. Yeah.
D&D one has come and I don't know, it hasn't gone, but it's been a while. It's been out a while.
Hmm.
Enough that they've released all three of the core rule books. So I want to talk about the Dungeon Master's Guide to some point today. Um, yeah.
Oh, did you
Oh,
just,
and we forgot to say the name of the podcast.
I just did.
Oh,
Yeah, I was like,
oh,
episode six or
I
episode
guess.
seven of, six, seven of Just a Side Quest. Yeah.
Okay, I guess I didn't hear that last part.
Yeah, you were too busy looking for your books, messing with my
Okay.
audio, turning your head and like, uh.
I
Yeah.
know how to
Yeah.
turn. I need like a cage for my so I don't move my head too much.
I mean, you can. It's not like I don't think it's that big a deal, but like you
Oh,
can.
oh, that's a pretty big deal.
I mean, I'm not saying that it's a big deal, but there's a demonstrable difference. Like, hey, you can tell the difference between this and like talking like this, right? But so when I sweep over here and I'm speaking directly into the mic, you can definitely tell that there's some change in audio, right?
Hmm.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm just saying. Anyways, uh, hey, we're back to do another episode. It's been quite some time. Life has been a thing. Things things are happening. But yeah, uh, I know you just said you wanted to talk about the DMG, um, and you said at some point. I'm curious. Did you have something else you wanted to talk about besides D&D 5.5 or whatever?
When you were setting up audio, I was like, oh shoot, there's this other thing I want to talk about, and now I've forgotten what it is.
I'm pretty sure we have like a Discord too, where we're like, it's just like, oh, this is where like we'd have like all of, like potential podcast stuff, and like, oh, here's where like you'll send like the thumbnail, and I'm like,
And yet
maybe
it
we
goes
should,
unused.
yeah, maybe we should be having like topics on there so we don't forget. Not that we necessarily, it's kind of a whole point of a side quest, right? You kind of just like,
Mhm.
our goal is this, and then suddenly you're halfway across the world and you've adopted 16 children and a pet raccoon who takes care of them all. um
Cool side quest.
yeah, it's a very important side quest, uh
Hmm.
but yeah, other than that, I mean, I guess like in general, like we haven't really talked about D&D 1 too terribly much. We've I my experience with it is extremely limited. I know that I've ran a couple sessions of it one on one just with you. Um, but short of that, I'm trying to think. Like, have I even played like any one shots using D&D one rules?
I don't think so because every time we run a one shot, I've asked the first few times at least, I asked if people want to try D&D one for it, and nobody did. Or at least there was
Cowards,
always like one or two people that didn't want to.
cowards, the whole lot of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
Um, oh, it was PvP stuff that I've been getting into. I
Okay,
wanted to talk about
let me
that.
write this down. As any good player should, you should have like some sort of like writing utensil and paper somewhere. That being said, don't listen to
I
me
do have a
because
note.
yeah, my my notebooks are, well, one of them is like especially egregious. Where like, oh, DM's talking. There's a lot of stuff. I need to write this down, and I've been like mixing and matching like notes from different campaigns into the same book. And I also played like some blueprints, so like my notes from blueprints are also just like chucked into here. There's some one shot notes, and they're like, hey, this is real bad. This is real not good.
The blueprints ones have got to be more modern sounding though, or number based, right? They must be easy to distinguish, or no?
Yeah, but you still have to read through like a fair amount of like text is like the problem, especially because like I just use a black pen for everything. Like I don't color code anything. Like there's no
You are missing out. Color coding's where it's at.
oh, I know you tried to like put me onto it, and like you suggested a bunch of different uh I know you're so uh you suggested some pens, some colored pens. And I was
There's
like,
some
okay, yeah,
wonderful pens.
yeah, and I
I
I
let's
ordered them.
talk about my fountain pens. Oh, you got you mean yeah, the Papermate Inkjoy gel pens
I'm a filthy
in your
degenerate
shoe.
now. Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
I was at the thrift store the other day and I was actually looking for a cup for you for those pens, but I couldn't find them at your desk.
Listen, just let me be a filthy heathen. You know, the shoe works, all right?
If anyone really wants a very fancy pen, Ferris Wheel Press has these gorgeous metal fountain pens that are refillable, and you unscrew them, and they have this like beautiful like filigree on the top, and it's all gold and silver, and it's really, really pretty. I recommend them, and you can do all different colors.
If you're good with fountain pens. I have tried before and it is not necessarily my thing.
Just gotta hold it in the same direction. I think maybe like a thicker, because I have the thin version, so maybe the thicker one would be easier for you.
Like how many C's of thick are we talking?
I don't know. I just know they have a thin and a thick when you order them.
Okay. In my defense, the one time that I did try using a fountain pen, I was probably in like, I don't know, like fifth or sixth grade or so.
You haven't tried to use this one?
No, God no. I don't want to mess it up. It's like you said, it's really pretty. I'm like, oh, I don't want to break this.
Fortunately, it's also well made, so it's hard to mess up unless you press crazy hard.
Um, Listen, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know. See, I don't even have like context for like what crazy hard would be. Like, is it? I don't know. Maybe sometimes I want to write that. Maybe I'm like, oh gosh, you're like this is like spurring some like real like fucking core memory stuff right now. Like, oh, I remember in like third grade, like learning cursive, like I would intentionally like write, like I would turn the paper to write at an angle to have like be more like italics, like this is even fancier, and then
Like calligraphy is traditionally done at a 45-degree angle, so that was correct.
oh, I didn't even know that. Look at me accidentally stumbling into the correct thing. And yeah, and likewise, when I wanted to bold something, I would take my pencil and push really hard. So I'd never liked using mechanical pencils because they wouldn't hold. They're insufficiently strong.
You know, people have trouble writing at a 45-degree angle, so they actually sell these. You put the pen nib in here, and it is a 45-degree angle from the way you hold the pen. So when you write straight, it writes at a 45-degree angle.
Interesting. I'll just do it wrong. I'm sure I'm not at 45 degrees. I'm sure it's like, you're writing at like 17 degrees. Too much
Mhm.
slant. Yeah. Anyways, lost in the sauce. We got completely sidetracked immediately. Um, what were we talking about? We're talking about PvP and D&D 5.5. What do you call it? Do you
Mhm.
call it 5.5 or 1 or next or what's the
But
move?
no, just call it D&D 1. I think that's the official name, isn't it?
I hate it.
Why?
Because like you went from all right, second edition, third edition, 3.5, 4, 5, 1. Why are we doing this?
Because I think these rule books they're going to be the core rule books, but they're going to expire, and they're creating this as to be like an online system where like it will be able to update automatically, and they might re-release editions of the book, but they're not going to do a new system. It's going to be an ever evolving thing.
Okay, so it's like the video game approach where it's like I know that Destiny was supposed to be like that kind of thing where it's like, oh, this is gonna be like a service game for, the next decade or so, which, in their defense they did. Full disclosure, I am a formerly uh ridiculously addicted Destiny avid connoisseur, if you will. Um but yeah, that I think that's like
Yeah.
good in concept, but I don't really know because at some point like there are things downstream that like just can't really be accounted for, like you know um like you might want a whole rehaul of like how combat or like social encounters work, right? Like fourth edition was supposed to be, it's very crunchy. It's very crunchy. It's nice to have those crunch, but sometimes in fifth edition, I know that I missed having some crunch to it. Um, yeah, I
Mhm.
think that
What
Pathfinder might have it too. Sorry, go ahead.
if you could if you could bring back just two crunches, what crunches would you bring?
Oh boy. Okay, so one thing that I really liked, I mean, could bring back. Listen, I'm a DM. I can bring back whatever I want. Sometimes I'm a DM. Sometimes I'm not. A lot of times I'm not. But I would bring back. I like minions. I like minions a lot. Minions in boss fights are such a great addition. It. keeps a lot of like threat still. So it's not just like, oh, the party has like a way higher action economy, even accounting for like legendary actions. Um, and minions can help stabilize that, but they also aren't like something that is too overwhelming. Like, so for people who don't know, minions are basically like the same offensive stats as normal, and then uh, you know, you have bandit minions. They all still do 1d6 plus 2 damage or whatever it is, plus 4 to hit, whatever it is. And then when you attack them, however, they all have 1 HP. Their AC
Hmm.
is still 14, 13, whatever it is. But yeah, so like it's some one of the things like, okay, they're very easy to kill, but you can't really ignore them either. So you're gonna have to like burn a fireball. You're gonna have to kind of get creative with terrain. Um, it's a good little system.
Right, and it's nice not having to keep track of HP for a bazillion things for the DM.
Yes, that is one thing that I really really appreciate. I do think that's one of the things that I struggle uh with I just don't like doing it um on roll 20 or like these virtual tabletops where it's like I don't know. It's just something about like having to click here and a click there and then like type in two numbers, hit enter. It's like it's very easy, but when you have like so many creatures on board, it's just like okay, well this is a lot to manage. Is there anything that you do like different? Like do you have like okay, red is health, blue is AC, green is temp HP, or like is there anything fancy you do there, or is it like a
D&D Beyond does everything for you. So if I have an NPC, I add it to the campaign, and then it can factor into the combat, and their turn will come up, and the HP is on there. If they get temp HP, which they almost never do, if anything, sometimes they'll heal. I'll just mark it on my notes.
okay?
Um,
Is there
but I think
integration? Sorry, go ahead.
I'm sorry.
Oh, I was just curious. Like, is there integration between like D and D Beyond and then Roll 20? Like, I know there's the plugin.
You can click on it.
Hmm.
Like I can click, like the +9 to attack or whatever, and it'll show the attack on roll 20.
Right, but is it like associated with that particular minion? So like, if I click on this minion and you do Fireball to it, like is there like a correlation there? Like, I know that when you uh, edit the token on Roll 20, you can have it have like a max HP as well, and like does it automatic like so if you reduce HP on D and D Beyond, does it translate to that bar? Okay.
I use the HP on roll 20, so I don't know. I just use D&D Beyond because I usually give some indication where like they're looking pretty hurt or like they're horribly wounded to indicate that they're either bloodied or worse. But I think it's a little meta knowing exactly how much HP your enemy has. So I tend not to keep the bar out. But I think going back to your first question, I think that probably the trickiest thing for running combat on D&D Beyond is casters, because it'll say they have three, they can cast any of these spells 3 times a day or whatever, and that stuff you do have to write down because there's no way to manage it. And if you
Mhm.
have more than one caster, you have to write down like an abbreviation for the caster and then like how many spell slots they have and cross those off. And I used to have a spell slot counter that would have like it was just a bunch of d6s and you would like line them up to see how many spell slots of each level they had. But with monster stats, like it often doesn't quite fit. And if you have multiple monster stats, it doesn't quite work that way. It's tricky. But I think any combat encounter that has multiple casters and NPCs and stuff with minions is going to be pretty high level and it's going to be tricky. And generally I try not to do combat unless it's really meaningful, and you have to have a pretty good reason to fight someone that powerful. So it doesn't come up super often, so it's not a big deal.
Right. I guess like the to elaborate, how prevalent is magic in your worlds?
I think it really depends. I have 3 settings that I've run, and I've asked players before we start a campaign what setting they want. One of them is really high magic, and the first homebrew game I ever or home game I ever ran was like a homebrew 5e world that was super high magic, and like stuff was really integrated into the world, and the magic system was such that like people just knew cantrips because they're freaking useful. So even if you're not a wizard, you have at least 2 or 3 cantrips that you just know. And not very many people are going to learn firebolt and stuff, but the amount of people that know prestidigitation or mending or something like that like is uncanny. Like that's really commonplace. Maybe someone will learn like a first level spell or so, and wizards are everywhere. So that one was pretty magic rich. And then Elion was an elemental themed magic system, and each school of magic is tied to a different plane of existence, and it gets a little more complex. But it's like the world is hyper magical, and everybody has like a little bit of magic from one of the planes in them. Um, but there are more sorcerers than wizards, and the history of that world is such that they're not especially common. Although every campaign we're jumping like 30 years in the future and it's becoming progressively more magical. I feel like if we did another campaign after the current Elion one ends and we jumped forward in the future, it would probably be a much more wizard heavy place given what's happening currently in the world. Um, and then my Amalia setting is very much like the gods have magic, the earth, the world has magic, but people tend not to, and it's very, very rare to see a caster.
Okay.
So I don't know, kind of the full spectrum. All the worlds were made with like a kind of different mood or vibe in mind. Um, how about you? Do your worlds? I know you just have the one that you've been running a game for a very long time in, and that's decently high magic, it seems. But your characters are exponentially more magical than the world around them.
Yeah. It is. I wouldn't even say it's decently magical. It is. It is super high fantasy, magical. In my campaign. And then the PCs are even more over the top on top of that. So things are absolute bananas there. But yeah, I think I've talked about it before, so I don't think I'll need to go back to episode 2. You're welcome. We were here to talk about. Oh, no, sorry. I need to pose a question back to you. What is one or two things from previous editions that you would bring back if you could? Can't say
I only
minions.
ever played a bit of 3.5, so I'm not as familiar with the other editions, but there are things in other systems that I think are really fun. There are aspects of the D100 system that I bring into my campaigns when people are gaining proficiencies. So the D100 system, you roll a D100, and if your score is 50, you have to roll below whatever your score is to accomplish something. So as you add points up to 100 in various things, you're rolling and the statistical likelihood of you getting something right. So if you have a 70 in something, you have a 70% chance of success. So when people are gaining proficiencies, we do that where I calculate the number of hours based on their intelligence and number of days in a week, because that changes from campaign to campaign. Um, and then based on those weeks, I calculate workday hours and how many hours total it's going to take to gain that proficiency. And if they come across something like a plant and they want to make an herbalism check, but they're only a certain number proficient, I have them calculate about what percentage of herbalism kit info they know, and then I make them do a D100 check to see if it's something they've encountered yet as they are learning.
Yeah,
And I found that to be really fun.
I
I actually
appreciate it.
made it up before I figured out what a D100 system is, so I felt very fancy when I realized it already existed. Uh,
Yeah,
but
I I very much appreciate that and I enjoy it because like it's one of those things where it's like, oh, like okay, I'm not like a level 20 wizard or anything, but I've been to magical college for like 17 years now. I must know something. It's like, no, you're not quite proficient in Arcana yet because you didn't choose it as your thing. But like, surely I must have, even if I was sleeping through all my classes, I must have absorbed something, right? Like, nah, you're just not proficient. It's like, oh no, you're a little proficient, right? Like I appreciate that.
I guess if you're studying the proficiency, I do the D100, but if it's something you may have encountered in your personal life, it's still a history check because it's like a memory recall thing. But if you're less likely to have encountered it, I set the DC higher in my head.
How do you work
So I
around?
guess
Oh, sorry. How do you work around players that? Because it seems like almost everyone dumps intelligence for whatever reason. How do you work around it? I know we talked a little bit about like, oh, a cool idea would be bringing back, ah, bringing back intelligence affecting how many skills, like your skill points per se, or I guess in this particular game, um, the number of proficiencies that you have, whether it be skills or tools or like whatever. I think such a. Sorry, go ahead. I'm excited about
go
it.
ahead.
Oh no, I think it's such a great idea. Like, dude, this is such a brilliant idea. Like, it just makes intelligence much less of a dumpable stat.
Mhm. I mean, I think if everyone in the party dumped intelligence, they're just going to be bad at it. And I've run enough campaigns and I've had enough players get frustrated where I use history and arcana checks a lot. Where like, can I tell what this is? And I'm like, make an arcana check. And like, if you all dumped intelligence and don't have arcana, you're just not going to know what that is if you don't have identify. Um, so I think in general, players when they join a campaign, especially if they know how I DM, like they'll know that this stuff is going to come up a fair amount. Like for me, I feel like I call for history and arcana stuff a fair amount. Maybe because I attract players who really engage in the world, and when they ask questions about that, if it's not something that's in the lore doc, which is like this 30-page document with like information everyone would know about the gods and the cities and stuff like that. And I'll just feed that to you if you don't know it, but I know it's in there. But if it's more specific, then it's hidden behind a check. Because your character wouldn't necessarily know it. So I think players just learn to value that stuff as it feels important in game, right?
Um, maybe I mean, admittedly, like one of the games that I'm in is with one of your favorite players, and
Mm-hmm.
we have both decided to like dump or like how does one of our lower stats be intelligence, and I think that one of the upsides is like, hey, our characters might be dumb, but we're not necessarily dumb. We may not be geniuses, but like we're definitely like not dumb.
Mm-hmm.
And I think like our workaround for that was like, we're gonna go like participate in a world and befriend NPCs that are smarter than RPCs, and like, hey, we found this thing. We don't know what it is, but ever since we touched it, uh, some weird stuff's been happening. And it was like, oh, there might be a spirit inside of that thing that talks to you and gives you riddles, but only if you speak the same language.
I think that's a perfectly valid way to play the game. There's nothing wrong with it. I don't think you should ever hide something that's essential to the plot that the players need to know in order to succeed behind a check. Like all the stuff you guys are trying to know are things that like this information may be really helpful or this information may tell you something, but it's not a live or die thing. You don't want to punish your players. But I think another way you guys got around that is by building the trophy room in the Bastion. Which getting to that, so we're playing largely 5e in our Monday campaign, but I did read the Bastion section in the DMG, which has really pretty art, and we're integrating the Bastions, and we have a customized Bastion list. I'm taking some from it and leaving some out because I feel like the way Bastions are set up are like very much in a video game mechanic kind of way, which I'm not a
Yeah,
fan of, where it's like 1 week is a bastion turn, and in 1 week you can, if you have a garden, you can harvest, enough uh, poisonous plants for a potion of poison, and then you can change whatever plants you want, and then a week later you can harvest enough plants for a potion of healing. And it's got like 7 or 8 options. And that makes zero sense to me because it takes more than a week to grow plants from seeds, and you're not like destroying and rebuilding a garden once a week. And I guess you could ham wave that by saying the plants are magical, but to me that didn't make sense. So we kind of jerry rigged it where they also specify a bastion turn can take as long as the DM says, and they recommend a week, but we're doing it whenever you guys check back in on home base because you have a lot of missions and other side quests you're doing. So I think the way we got around that was for the garden, we picked percentages. So it's like 30% food, 30%, like, was it
decorative.
aromatic herb?
Yeah,
Yeah, and decorative, which you're using for pigment specifically, like, and then like 10% poison. And like you played around with it like that. So it supplements the cost of stuff. Or if you want to wait a certain number of bastion turns, you can then pick those things up once you've reached 100 in the percentage. And we're just keeping track of that manually. And then a few of the things have been reskinned so that they make a little bit more sense. And I think it talks about how the Bastion has like NPC employees, and we did. I mean, this campaign is like very into interacting with NPCs, so we had a whole session where you guys interviewed potential employees, and they became like characters who are like very specific. So, for example, like there's a crafting one, and I think it gives a list of like stuff they can make that doesn't necessarily seem unified. So you interviewed people who specialized in different materials. So you hired someone that did like I think it's like jewelry, metal, pottery, and sewing. And so she can make things that are, like made out of fine metalwork, or, amulets or rings, or, things that are sewn. And then she has a list of things she can make, or she can custom make something based on what she's able to do, as opposed to just choosing from a random list that seems a little more eclectic. So trying to keep it more personalized and more in keeping with what makes sense with the people you're interacting with and hiring, I think makes the world feel like it makes more sense. Because if anyone with zero experience in something, just because they can enchant something, can then enchant, this crazy wide list of stuff that's all different materials, it feels a little bit more impossible. And I think it adds it messes with the world in a way that it feels like the things that you should be able to do get exponentially crazier. And I think it would be difficult to manage at higher levels, or, if it's like, oh, well, this crafter can do all this stuff, why can't someone else? So I feel like it adds some reality to it.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. I haven't run it myself yet. So I
Mhm.
for me, it's just mostly vibes and gut feelings, which is wholly
Which I think is a
worthless.
lot of it.
Yeah, but I do get. I kind of feel like some of the options um for the oh god, not the homestead. For whatever reason, I just keep trying to. I'm like, it's just. I know it's Bastion, but the first thing that
Mhm.
wants to come out of my mouth is just it's just homestead. I don't know why. Probably because
Okay.
our Bastion is kind of just ridiculous.
Hmm.
Insofar
Would
as
you like to describe it?
yeah, well, uh, this particular campaign, our Bastion is well, we're not typical adventurers. Let's just put it that way. Like we're prioritizing like, oh, one of the characters is really into painting, and so we gotta have like a workshop for them to paint in, and also, uh, subsidize the cost of pigments via this garden, and then also they're really into food, so we need to have a bar slash that's reskin
Yeah,
as a
we
cafe.
yeah, we reskinned the pub as a sandwich shop, I think,
Yeah. Um, and we reskin like the trophy room as like a
as a
library.
library.
And
Yeah.
honestly, like that's one of my biggest gripes is like there's just like some of these like rooms just seem kind of like redundant. Um, and I would rather them just like condense them like okay, like here's a library, here's a trophy room, here's a laboratory, just like condense it into like oh, this is like a research room and then flavor it however you want. And if it takes longer or if it's like available at a higher level, so be it. But as it stands, it's just like you know, oh, we're only gonna get like five like unique rooms or whatever it is, uh, and it's like, well, shoot, we want a teleportation circle and we want this and we want research and we like do some alchemy. It's like, okay, you gotta pick and choose. That feels kind of bad.
To clarify, there are 28 options, and
Mm-hmm.
you start with 3 options, and you add one more option at level, I think, like 13 or 14, then another option at level 17. So you can only pick 5 out of the 30 or so.
Yeah, and it's just like, well, man, like, why wouldn't I be able to like uh, do some research? Because like the trophy room, like one of the things, like, oh, you can like uh have the NPC in there do some research on like a particular. Go ahead.
Which has been very helpful since you guys
Are
aren't
dumb.
like big on history and arcana for lore dumps. Yeah.
Yeah, that's why we took it. Um, but yeah, it just feels like okay, like why wouldn't that same NPC who's like good at all these things, why wouldn't she be able to also like help do some work on like some I like magic items or whatever. They're pretty well rounded. It just seems kind of like unnecessary to like fragment it into 28 pieces when like you can combine like three or four of them into one thing.
I mean, I do get that like some of these can be pretty powerful, and some of these are a lot for the DM to do. Like, for example, if you want a lore dump every time you come back, if it does, 4 other things, that can be a lot for the DM to handle, especially if you have multiple facilities and you're coming back and expecting all this stuff. I think it's to encourage people not to have crazy infrequent bastion turns or like to cap people at a certain number of rooms. Granted, you guys do have a pretty big space, and there is a price list for extra rooms. They just don't have magical effects, so you can still build onto your bastion even if it doesn't do some of this stuff. And you
Right.
could, yeah.
But the concern that I have is like is that really much like workload added to the DM when you can only do one thing per bastion turn anyways for any given room. So if you condense it into one room anyways, like it's not really an issue that it can do, the work of like three other different rooms if the NPC that's working it can only do one thing anyways. Like, oh, you have six options, but they only do this one thing. Like that seems more reasonable to me. And then you don't have like, a venerable army of like, okay, like we're really really dumb, so like we need like all the wizards in the land to come work for us specifically. And it's like, well, that's got to have some downstream effects of like, like there's got to be some like nobleman out here who's like, what the hell, what happened to my wizard? Someone just stole my wizard. This is ridiculous. Like, sorry dude, you don't have enough, like they saved my kid, it is what it is. It's like, well shit, I still need you to like help me, help defend my psyche from psychic attacks and from mind control, because like otherwise, like I'm just susceptible to that sort of thing. I need you back here. It's like, yeah, but like there's only like one of me. It's just like, especially like depending on how extremely limited your magic is. Also, that was one question I wanted to ask you as well. Like, have you ever run a campaign that like I know that you said you had like low magic, but like, have you ever run a like campaign where it's like low magic, like oh, like uh, most adventurers are like martial classes, and like if you know a level one spell, like you might be like the most powerful magical person in like the country, right? Like that's like it's a big deal.
No, that doesn't sound quite as fun for me. I love me some high fantasy, but I'd be interested to explore it as like a one shot or something, but it's not something I'd probably want to build a world or a campaign around. How about you?
Um, I've always wanted to play in a campaign like that. I know that we've talked to a mutual friend of ours before. Well, I have at least. And he's like appreciated that like my characters are always kind of like grounded and they come from like humble beginnings kind of deals. Are never like really that fancy. And he's wanted to do like a hardcore game with me. I was like, dude, that sounds so fun. Like uh,
I love the fancy. Give me like five people who were, like dethroned from their rightful place as ruler or something, and they all come together and save the world. I think that would be so extra and so tropey and so fun. Like the world is as dramatic and ridiculous as you make it, and I think that's where a lot of the entertainment value comes from in D&D, because I run pretty serious plots, and a lot of the dramedy is situational from like crazy shit players have brought to the table, and I think that's so entertaining, because
yeah.
then you have to realistically think like, well, how are these people going to react in this situation, or how is this going to work out?
Yeah, I think it was something we talked about in the past. Like for me, like the most fun for me in D&D is like having extremely limited resources and like solving an issue without magic, and you like having like, oh, I happen to have the perfect tool for this in my toolbox. I'm like, shit, I've got three pieces of string, a patch of dirt, and a shovel. How are we gonna get up there? I don't know, man. Figure it out. Like that's like interesting to me and pretty entertaining. But I can understand why if like, you know, I just want to live my like fantasy land and like I want to interact with the Fae and live in that like high intrigue world. Like I could see why like maybe a beginning where, hey dude, we're all like coming from like farmlands, and like maybe like the fancy of us is like, ooh, but my dad's a miller, so like get fucked, losers. Like
Hi
I could
guys, I got gluten.
exactly like, oh, you guys want bread? Ooh, tough look. Yeah. It's just a difference in how did we get here. Sorry, I'm realizing like mid sentence like, how did we get here?
Bastions.
Bastions. Oh yes, yeah. So our bastion um is a little more on the silly side. We have like the creative resources for one of the characters, and then the rest of it is like, hey, we're dumb, so we need this. We need all these things.
Yeah, so basically, the way bastions work is you have these facilities, and every time you leave, you can ask them to do something. And depending on the facility, you can ask them to craft something, empower something, harvest something, or train something. And then if you don't tell them to do anything, they just maintain things. Um,
Oh, there's one more, isn't
and
there? Isn't one of them like you can have them like sell, like create stuff like to generate funds?
oh yeah, research and trade is up here too. Sorry, it's on the next page
Okay.
or next column. Yeah, and research or trade. And so, for example, like a smithy is a crafting place that you can make. It allows you to craft stuff. But for example, a theater is an empowering one. It allows you to empower stuff. So when you watch a show, maybe you get some kind of inspiration or extra power boost. The library is a research place. The garden is a harvest place. So based on what you want, like, oh, I want like a bunch of people researching things for me, you pick the research bastion rooms. So they have flavor to them, but they all have different effects, and it's all going to be an effect that's a variation on something on this list. And then you leave, the past bastion does something, and by the time you come back, you'll get a bunch of information or resources or something from the DM. It gives players a home base to come back to, a reason to come back to their home base, which I actually ran into that problem in my first main game where the players saved the city and were awarded a house there. I was really bummed because I made like a custom map and there were like rooms with stuff for all the players in there. And they were like, they had no reason to go back to that city. And so they just sold the house immediately because they wanted
Oh.
gold. And I was like, oh, I spent so long working on this though. But I think the Bastion, because it has this mechanical element and because it has NPCs that you can bond with and you can have some sort of relationship with, and you're essentially like running your own business. It gives you a reason to return, and it gives you a little bit of a home base, which I like. I think it feels very cozy. I think it feels like it brings the party together more, and it gives them like a place to call their own. And I like that flavor in my games. I know not everybody does. Other people really prefer to be on the road. They don't want to revisit old places. They kind of want to, charge ahead. So depending on the kind of game you run, I guess a bastion could be good or bad, depending.
I think it's definitely good as an option. Certainly, like much like anything in D&D, like there's a lot of like player autonomy there, and I think it also does matter like the kind of players that you have a lot because some
Mm-hmm.
players like
Oh,
will
definitely.
grow attached to NPCs and like want to form like relationships where others like this is like a means to an end. All right, see you later.
That's true. I will say, you guys have had so many pity hires in your Bastion or friends that you've just wanted the NPCs to stick around, so you've hired them.
We are not smart.
Um, and I mean, it's been fun.
Hmm.
um, but yeah, I think it gives, I agree with you piggybacking off of that. I think it gives players a reason for if you find an NPC you like, you can be like, hey, you want a job?
Um, yeah, even though like we can't pay for it, but
It
we
says that in the Bastion that they're self-sustaining enough that they can pay like a fee. Which it doesn't go into the specifics. I know in our campaign, because you're like champions of this country, the government has awarded the house to you and pays employees a set wage. I don't know how it works if that doesn't happen. I guess more specifics in trade or your business is instantly successful. That made a little less sense to me, so I homebrewed it a little.
I'm assuming it probably has some degree of like, oh, like you hired a specialized or skilled, worker in whatever thing it is. Like, okay, they're doing like your one request, but on their, during their working hours, they're also doing like, hey, yeah, I'm crafting, you know, herbal remedies for canker sores, for a local populace, and I'll sell this, and like that pays their wages. But like, they have a place to stay. Um,
Mhm.
like I'm sure like it depends on the DM like how much you want to flavor that. Um, but
Yeah,
yeah.
it gives an option.
Hmm.
I
Sorry,
was saying,
I
yeah,
don't
it
know what you
gives some
said. Sorry.
options.
Oh no, we're doing the thing. We're doing the thing.
I said, yeah, there are some options.
Yeah. But I definitely agree with you. There's a fair amount of stuff that just kind of doesn't make sense. But you know, uh, in general, like I like it as a concept. I am the player that likes to collect all the pets and like, well, shit, I don't want to bring like my baby owlbear into a fight with a dragon. Like, I want you to live. So like, I guess you could just like stay back at the bastion and just terrorize our skilled workers. It's like, hey, you guys take care of the baby, and then come back and then hopefully no one's dead is the deal. Not that we have one, but I'm not opposed to it. Just putting it out there.
Oh God, you would adopt a baby.
I I I, I took a ward. I took a little Harangon ward who,
Yep, and he lives in the Bastion too.
yeah, he lives in the Bastion as well. He wanted to go rush off and fight. Oh boy, tough fights where the party almost died, but
He's a
sometimes.
level 2 rogue now, so he can handle it.
Oh god, this is gonna be like a whole other conversation of like, okay, I appreciate like one of the things that you gave is like, we had like some time to like get really good at something during our travels, and was like, can I get a little like bonus for persuasion checks, but specifically for like child rearing? Is that something that I can have?
Oh yes, you have expertise in checks to persuade children to do things.
Yes. Even if it's like just for this one little Harangon, it's super beneficial because that's the one that I need it for. I don't really care about the other children. This one's my ward. This one's my responsibility. Yeah. But anyways, Bastions. Is there something that you like wish that they would have like implemented? Like, um, I guess like just in general, it seems to me something that was kind of like slapped on at the end that wasn't necessarily like well rounded, although a good concept, just not. Yeah, do you know what I'm saying?
It was rounded in the sense that like they're thinking of it from a mechanical point of view for people who view D&D as a video game, but role play wise, some of it doesn't make sense. Especially since a lot of these things are magical things that people are making depending on how high magic your world is, like whether or not this is possible is yeah. Um, I do wish that there were a couple options for worlds that were less high magic. So, for example, they can harvest magical plants or something that have effects as opposed to they enchant these things. But you could always flavor that yourself as a DM. I also think it would be really fun to have like a stable option specifically for magical pets where you could like pick a X amount of species and have them trained or raised or something because there's the issue of like travel a lot of the time. If you don't have someone with teleport and it can be a few levels before you get there. And being able to have, like X number of, wyverns or Pegasus or, whatever flying mount or just, like hardy mount that carries multiple people, I think could solve a lot of problems. And I think it would be very popular given how much people like pets. I think that would be a lot of fun. How about you? What would you want to
Um,
add?
so I don't know if it was something that you homebrewed. So this could be entirely like a pointless conversation altogether. Um, but I don't like the pricing of things. Just like expansion of like a room is going to cost like thousands
Oh,
of gold.
no, that's on here. I do agree the price is kind of insane.
These are insane
Yeah.
prices, but they also like,
So like yeah, to get an extra room in a bastion, let me just read out this table. A cramped space, which is 4 squares, is 500 gold and takes 20 days to build. A roomy space, which is 16 squares, is 1,000 gold and takes 45 days to build. And a vast room, which is 36 squares, takes 3,000 gold and 125 days to build. There is no in between.
yeah, and it's like, I appreciate like what they're trying to do is like give players like for campaigns with like it's been long running or whatever with like crazy amounts of money, basically a money dump to dump their money into.
Mm-hmm.
That being said, um, I don't
Yeah,
like how they have these like huge prices on these things. There's prices on like some equipment, but then for stuff there's no like good rule of thumb for like, oh, this is how much like a magic item will cost. Like things that like adventurers would be feasibly selling if they're not doing the thing. Because I guess it depends on like the campaigns you're in, but like basically every campaign that I'm in, like I'm insisting like, no, we're good people. We're not doing this for pay. We're doing this because we're good people. They need help, so we're gonna help them. We're not taking pay. And like the way that the DM like rewards that is like, okay, you don't get money, but like you guys did the thing. You went down into the crypts. You dealt with the lich. Here is some cool magic items. Like cool. I am not a wizard, so this particular wand is worthless to me. And like, oh cool, none of us are wizards because we all dumped intelligence. Cool, what do we do with this? We should sell it. Okay, how much can we get for it? No fucking idea. Could not tell you. And so it's kind of like up to the DM to like come up with like
Mhm.
some system of like putting costs on things, but like that system may not necessarily match up to this. Oh, you want a little bit of a bigger room where like more than like four people can be in it at any given time. 1,000 gold. Like, okay.
Yep.
Potion of healing, 50 gold. Where's just like this wand of cure wounds? How much is that worth? It's like, well, now it's like, you guys are on. You're like, come on, like you're gonna give me like hard prices for these things. Like, I think that's one thing that I would absolutely homebrew, like, and like scale it to the economy of that particular area and like how much people like you or something. Like, oh, we can get like cheap labor with you know the craftsman guild because we did a job for them, so we'll give us like a good rate or like whatever it is. But no, they just like straight up 1,000 gold, take it or leave it. Also, it has to be exactly a 3 by 3 square.
Exactly this very specific space. I do think we should like figure out a cost per square and then let you custom build your room shape and stuff like that. But I agree, it is kind of bananas. But I run a lower gold campaign, and honestly, like we should probably. I'd be open to talking about switching it because I agree the pricing on this is kind of wild, and I just sort of read it off because they had it here, but it doesn't make a lot of sense.
Right. And also, I imagine like it's also skewed by the nature of it being your campaign, because I know that your campaign and my campaign also both do a thing where it's like, you know, so like for me, I use a silver standard, you use a copper standard,
Hmm.
where it's like, okay, for you like $1 is about 1 copper, and for me like $1 is about 1 silver, and then like with copper cents, gold is etc. So, for you, 1,000 gold is a fucking lot. Like that's like, oh, like
Yep.
like, hey guys, like chill. Like this is one room and it's gonna be 1,000 gold, which is what is that like?
They're really sturdy walls. They have what, 16 hit points.
Yeah, 16 hit points, just within a level 1 smite range.
Hmm.
Yeah. Um. So yeah, if they're gonna do stuff like that where they give like hard numbers for some things, give hard numbers for everything. Either give hard numbers for everything or give hard numbers for like basically nothing. Um.
Or just a general range of like, because they give a cost per day for living based on what you think your living standard is.
Mhm.
And like a really wealthy person spends what, 2 gold a day on living expenses or
I believe
something
so. Yeah.
versus like a couple copper. Yeah, but if you think about it, like, I don't know, if you calculate how much you're paying in rent per day and, like percentage of groceries or whatever, you're probably spending like a couple $100 a day just to live. Or at least, if you order out and if you, like live in a decent place, which I guess is the equivalent to the like fancy lifestyle in D&D.
Mhm.
Like I feel like that's still a fair amount. And like if you use that to kind of calculate other stuff, I don't know. This is still bananas. I don't quite get it.
Yep. Uh. That is. I'm with you there. I do appreciate they do give like cost of like other things, just like like hiring NPCs or specialized NPCs. I guess like
Yeah.
hirelings. Yeah. Um. But you know, like that's like one of the like good things about it being D&D, right? Where it's like, oh, this isn't a video game. I'm the fucking god here, and I've decided that no, I am hand waving these nonsense prices. I don't want it to be this case, or the reverse. You fucking make things even more expensive because your players have somehow managed to rig some sort of gladiatorial games, and they didn't get caught, and now they have like oodles of money. And they don't even know what to like do with it, and they can basically just like buy people out. Um, yeah, you know what? Teleportation pad, that'll be like, I don't know, like 350,000 gold. You're welcome. It's like, yeah, I can afford that. And you're just like, let me write the check. It's like, okay.
Oh my god. Yeah, your game sounds insane.
Yeah.
You have some smart players.
Also, it doesn't help. Like literally want to say like they're overpowered. Like it's the question I had in mind was like what do normal people do when they get superpowers, and like this is it. And I gave one of my players like, oh, like you have the superpower where it's like you can just convince people of stuff. Like you say a thing, they make a check, they make a saving throw, and like the DC is scaling based off of like their disposition towards you and how many steps away from your alignment it is, and that'll determine like what the DC is. Um, And yeah, like one of them was like super speed, one of them was like super strength, endurance, etc., etc. Uh, and you know, they're when you have like god powers, you're probably gonna win the fights, and you just kind of place bets and you make people take the bets, and this is kind of what happens. Um, and yeah, this is like this quote unquote social experiment I wanted to see. Like, what do normal people do when they get superpowers? And it turns out they get fucking rich. That's what they do.
They
That's
become morally questionable.
they try to do good, but they do good in a I'm always right kind of way because might makes right.
Oh boy.
Oh boy, indeed. It's fun though. It's a good old time.
No, I'm glad you have fun.
Yeah, they get the bad guys in the end, so like I'm happy. They're like morally grayish, but yeah. Anyways, you had another.
One,
Go ahead.
yeah, one thing I want to point out about the Bastion 2 that's kind of crazy is like this is your home base. This is where you live. You only get two of these to start off with: a bedroom, a courtyard, a dining room, a kitchen, parlor, and storage. So there's no bathrooms. Um, I guess no one pees in like fantasy,
We do. We just
but
dig a
I
hole.
think those are important. I added them to the bedrooms. I made them master bedrooms. But yeah, like obviously, like you're gonna want a place to sleep, and these are small facilities. Like
Oh yeah.
yeah, one is cramped, one is roomy. So one is 4 squares, one is 16 squares. Who like so you can have a 4 square kitchen or a 4 square bedroom or something, and or a 4 square courtyard, and like it seems like for a party of like 3 to 6 players, one 16 square bedroom is probably not enough for everyone with like a tiny, tiny kitchenette. And then in addition to that, you own a pub that's next, like inside the building. Like it seems kind of insane the way it's set up.
No, I want to talk about this now because you're 100% right. You're absolutely right. Like, this is insane that, like, okay, these are prices to, like, build extra rooms for you to, like, sleep in and live in. You only get 2 rooms to begin with, but also, you get 3, like, special facilities. And what if, oh, the flavor of this is, like, you have a special bastion and it's, like, in, like, the middle of the woods or it's, like, outskirts of town or whatever. And it's, like, it's kind of a place where your NPCs that it comes with the facilities, like, comes with an NPC to, like, work the thing.
Needs a
Where are
place
they
to sleep or
staying?
something.
Yeah, where are they staying? You don't have a room for this, but you also don't have like thousands and thousands of gold to build everyone their own room. Like, what are they just gonna like? Oh, we have a really badass bastion. We have like a teleportation circle. We got this grand library. We got this smithy. All
We
the
have this
people
one
work.
room with 12 beds crammed into it.
It's a 5. It's a 5. I guess it's 10 by 10 because it's 5 foot squares. So not even the whole party could fit into the room. But we're all
Right.
squeezing in there, and like we're very intimate. It's like we're real close as a
You
party.
must, right? You must share beds. There's no bathroom, but there's a hole out back.
Yeah, and it's like, okay, how are we convincing these like high level NPCs, these very skilled, specialized
Yeah.
workers to come work for us when it's like, oh, we're taking a dump in like the middle of the woods where like I might get attacked by a cougar or something. Like,
Right. So I know for ours, I made the bedrooms bigger, and it's still not enough.
it's
I gave
really
you guys
not.
2 extra bedrooms, and extra storage, and I added bathrooms. And it's like you're still talking about like, oh, we need like 4 more rooms for bedrooms because there are so many NPCs. And the players want their own rooms to some degree, like for some things. And it's not quite. I feel like it's not quite thought out. It's thought out in like a video game kind of way.
Absolutely. It's like, oh, you guys all still need to keep watch. Just because it's a bastion doesn't mean it's safe. So 2 of you guys are only sleeping at any given time. The other 2 are keeping watch. Um, yeah, and gosh, like it's one of the things that I was like, I'm genuinely thinking about that kind of thing. Like, I intentionally want to take side jobs, even though like we're champions of the country.
Mhm.
I'm like, I need to take side jobs so that I can pay to have some NPCs come build extra rooms in our bastion that was gifted to us by the government, and it's like just so I could like have a place for all the NPCs to sleep. Like, this is insane. What is this? Like, we're doing like, hey, how much money can I make if I spend all my spell slots and all my lay on hands, just healing people, just all day every day, and it's just like, don't know. It's like, yeah, that's the other thing too. Like, I don't know. Yeah, but
Yeah, basically.
Bastions,
Anyway,
yeah, good in
yeah.
concepts. a lot. It should have worked like ironed out
Yeah,
a
there's
lot.
some stuff you'll need to homebrew if you're playing with them. Overall, I think it's a cool idea. It's unique. It's like the first time I've seen it. I don't know if it's been in previous versions, but I am excited to use it and warp it to my own designs. Um, and there you go.
Yeah. Um, I know that you wanted to talk about PvP at some point.
No, PvP.
Oh, play by post PvP.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you think
But
we could
also
bang
it's
out in
been like
five
an hour,
minutes?
so I feel
Yeah.
like yeah, I was
Um,
gonna
um,
say
um,
like maybe this could be next episode.
I don't think it would take this long, but we did go on a couple side quests along the way.
That's true.
But
All right.
yeah,
Yeah, we'll tune back in whenever we decide to record again, and we'll talk about PvP and how that works.
let's try to shoot for at least like once a month. Let's like we'll go very loose, lofty goals, and then kind of like as we get to a stride, maybe we'll bring it down in to
Yeah,
like,
if you say so.
yeah. But anyways, that's Maria. I'm
That's
I'm
John.
I'm still John, and this was just a side quest.
This is Nightquest. Leave a comment, subscribe, like, do all the things, and we
Do
will
whatever
talk
you
to
don't
you
have to
later.
do that. I don't keep track of that stuff.
You have to do it.
Dang, don't let her bully you. Okay, like hey, player autonomy. Okay, love you guys. Bye.
Bye.